Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council work session for Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. First item on this agenda today is the presentation on the fiscal year 2024-25 audit. Ann.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Before we turn the meeting over for the presentation of the independent audit report, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the work that went into the fiscal year 2025 audit process. First, I would like to express our appreciation to Bergen KDV for their work as our independent auditors and for being here to present the audit report. We value the important role they play in providing an objective review of the city's financial statements and related reporting. It has been a joy to work with Andy, Dustin, Chelsea, and Team Bergen KDV. There's a number of them. I did not name all of them. And we do look forward to working with them on the fiscal year 26 audit. I also want to extend a thank you to Hogan Hansen for compiling our financial statements for fiscal year 25 and their years of service to the city of Marion. Hogan Hansen has prepared our financial statements every year consecutively since 2007, and we have a long history with them dating back at least as far as I could find, 1985. I'm sure it probably predates that even. This was the first year we were audited by a separate firm than the firm that assisted with our financials. And this is our last year working with Hogan Hansen, so I just wanted to acknowledge them. Finally, I want to thank Brian McKenzie and the finance team who worked diligently to get us here. As council is aware, this audit is being presented later than we would have preferred. This was a transition year for the city, as it was the first year we had separate firms responsible for assisting with financial statement preparation and the independent audit. That change created some additional coordination needs and learning opportunities for everyone involved. It also highlighted the need for more in-depth knowledge in governmental accounting. Different CPAs provide different interpretations, and using a firm that specializes in government accounting to assist in financial preparation, as well as a similarly suited firm to audit, will provide the best quality for the city. While the timing was not ideal, the transition has strengthened the process going forward, and we did accomplish what we set out to do: eliminate the segregation of duties and financial statement preparation audit findings. Our work continues as we strive to eliminate a new finding, a material weakness, in the coming years. We have engaged a larger CPA firm with a governmental division to assist in compiling our financial statements going forward. That's Eide Bailey. We are targeting our continued education credits toward governmental accounting to increase our knowledge, and we have also updated our process surrounding capital assets, and for the first time ever, assets are actually entered into our financial software prior to year-end. We will continue to strengthen year-end processes and checklists. We appreciate the patience of council, the cooperation of both firms, and the continued efforts of city staff who help provide information, answer questions, and support the audit process. With that, I'll turn it over to Andy Grice from Bergen KDV to present the independent audit report. You can just use it.
Welcome.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, for having me here this afternoon. Here to present the audit results for the year ended June 30th, 2025. I wanted to start by highlighting the independent auditor's report that will be included in the city's financial statements. That report highlights what our role is as your auditor, but also the role of management. Management is responsible to prepare financial statements each year in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and it's our role as your auditor to provide assurance through our audit opinion as to whether we believe those financial statements to present fairly in all material respects. And happy to report that we are providing a clean or an unmodified opinion, which is the best that we can give as your auditor. There is some other reporting included in the financial statements as well, one being our government auditing standards report. That report talks about our consideration of internal control over financial reporting when performing our financial statement audit, which includes getting an understanding of the city's internal controls, policies, and procedures, and also have a requirement there to report any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that come to our attention as part of that process. We did have one finding this year that is at a material weakness level related to material audit adjustments and prior period restatements. It's not an uncommon finding, especially during a year of transition, as there is different procedures that can be performed, another lens that information is being looked at from a different auditor perspective, and hope that did provide some perspective going forward to ensure that those numbers are fairly stated going forward. We also performed a single audit or a compliance audit on the city's one major federal program. So the city did expend just under $1.5 million in federal awards this year. The major federal program that was selected for testing was the Community Development Block Grants. And we did provide a clean, unmodified opinion on that program, and we had no internal control findings to report. The last bit of reporting that we have is the required state statutes from the state auditor's office that we're required to report on, and we had no findings to report on those state statutes for June 30th, 2025. The final piece I wanted to cover is our communications letter. That letter includes all of required communication with in accordance with audit standards, but also provides some emerging issues, some new accounting standards. As Leanne mentioned, there's a fair amount of complexity when it comes to governmental accounting. I think when I started 18 years ago, we were at GASB 45, and now we're at GASB 105. So over 50 new accounting standards over the last 18 years. So I do have some additional information about those coming up. And then we also provided a financial analysis, which provides some charts, graphs, some trend data to provide some further perspective on the numbers. The first chart that we have highlights the general fund balance here over the last 5 years. And this includes all components of the general fund. And here for 2025, there was about a 16% increase overall in fund balance, bringing total fund balance to $22.7 million. All components of fund balance at the end of the year are unrestricted, and the city does have a policy in place to maintain no less than 25% in unrestricted fund balance as compared to general fund expenditures, and that ratio was at 75% for June 30th, 2025, so in compliance with that policy. The next chart highlights the general fund revenue sources and highlights the magnitude of those sources in comparison to the general or total overall general fund revenues between the 2 years. And this continues to highlight that the majority of general fund revenues are coming from taxes at 81%, followed by charges for services at 8%. The following graph highlights the details of those revenue sources and gives you that 5-year history of each of those revenue streams. And the majority of the increase that occurred this year occurred in property taxes. The overall increase in revenue was $1.2 million, and the property tax revenue increase was $1.1 million, with other categories remaining fairly consistent between 2024 and 2025. The next slide highlights the general fund expenditures and how those are allocated by function. And there really was no change. So no percentage point change between those functions between 2024 and 2025, with majority going to public safety at 57%, followed by culture and recreation at 24%. Following slide highlights the details of those general fund expenditures over the last 5 years. Overall, did see about a 2.1% increase in general fund expenditures here in 2025, increasing about $622,000. The majority of that occurring in that public safety category, with some cost of living adjustments occurring and also a full year of the automated traffic enforcement contracts. The other areas had basically inflationary increases overall and were fairly consistent between the 2 years. The remaining slides here for the fund financial statements are the city's enterprise funds. These funds do present a bit differently in that these are full accrual funds, and these do provide the full cost of providing the services and the charges or the revenues associated with providing those services, and includes things like depreciation expense, which is a non-cash operating expense. So we try to provide some perspective on that. Overall, here in 2025, there was a surplus of about $2.3 million. That's the highest in the years presented. And going back to 2022, this fund was in a deficit financial position. So you can see the significant progress that's been made in this fund here over the last 5 years. And with that surplus, the unrestricted net position in this fund ended the year at $5.8 million, so fairly consistent with 2024. It doesn't include things like capital asset purchases and acquisitions, as those are capitalized and depreciated over time. But without depreciation, that surplus for the year was at about $2.9 million compared to about $2.1 million in 2024. The next fund is the Stormwater Fund. This fund did have a deficit this year of $325,000. There was an increase in maintenance costs and costs related or expenses related to the Stormwater Master Plan. So that deficit did grow a bit here in 2025 at $325,000. But excluding depreciation, did have positive cash flow of about $353,000 and did see the unrestricted net position grow from about $1.9 million to $2.1 million for 2025. Next, we have the solid waste fund. This fund generated income this year of about $1.9 million and did see surplus of about $2.3 million, excluding depreciation. And there were some significant capital asset acquisitions occurring in this fund. So did see unrestricted net position go from $5.9 million down to $3.2 million at the end of the year. And the last two charts that we have highlight the tax capacity and tax rate, or tax rates and tax levy, I should say. With the increase in levy, and the change in the tax base there was a decrease in the tax rate going from 15.03 to 14.80. And the last chart highlights the tax levy over the last 5 years with an increase in levy from 2024 to 2025. Going from 28.4 million to $30.5 million. That's a high level look at our audit results, as well as the charts and graphs from our communications letter. I'd just like to thank the city for all their work during the process as well. Next, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
And before you do that, Mayor, if you don't mind, I just want to add a few contexts to some of the slides that Andy had shared.
Sure, go ahead.
Like he had mentioned the general fund and he did say it's all inclusive. So just to drive clarity for the public, when he says all inclusive, he means it includes the equipment reserve fund, the hotel motel fund, the tax stabilization fund. And just for awareness, we have been purposefully building up the asset replacement fund in anticipation of larger replacements. So speaking to that reserve on that fund. I also wanted to mention on the sewer rental fund, we're intentionally increasing the rates in anticipation of the new sewer treatment agreement. That new sewer treatment agreement is just now taking effect. We did not want a rate shock, so that large increase in the fund balance is because of that, and we have no shortage of capital expenditures that we need, capital improvements that we need to make. So that's where those dollars will be headed. And then in the stormwater fund, he already mentioned the stormwater master plan. That is a fund, if you recall, we have been doing a rate increase annually, knowing that we are going to need to do some catch up on that one. So, and then the solid waste, the increase there is because tonnages were not as high as the study had suggested. We did not do a rate increase this last year. We're going to continue to look at that rate as we move forward. And then lastly, for the benefit of the public, as it relates to the levies, while there was an increase in 2024, we did also hire 6 new firefighters that year. While the rate does not show a full picture, we did want to share that rate has come down and is $14.54 for fiscal year 27. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anyone? Grant?
No,
Oh, I thought you had a hand.
no, nothing.
None? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for the work you've done on the audit. I have a few questions here. How serious should council be? How worried should council be on the material weaknesses, given that the city still received a clean opinion? And my second question is for the people listening at home. What level of concern should they have?
Sure. So the material weakness is the highest level or the most severe finding that you can receive. And what it indicates is that there was a material misstatement in the financial statements when we began our auditing procedures. And we were able to identify that during the audit. So it does indicate that the internal controls that are currently in place weren't able to identify that particular error timely. And so looking at those specific areas, understanding the reconciliation process, the review, the processing of the related transactions, ensuring that those are captured correctly on the general ledger will help to resolve that going forward.
I was just, if
May-
you don't mind, sorry.
I would just make a comment. I understand the challenges of changing CPA firms. I've been involved there. I've done it in the past as the president of a business. So I understand the challenges that the new CPA firm goes through and also for the staff. So that's challenging in both ways. I think the real question that maybe Calvin's getting to is the question that maybe to rephrase it that I would ask is, because we had the material weakness and the prior period adjustment, do you feel that procedures and or the ability to identify those things, are the changes being put in place either by our staff and or your CPA firm?
So we're not reporting on, the future changes that the city, team or the finance team would be making going forward to make those things. That would be something we would take a look at in 2026. So it's something we haven't evaluated the nature of those changes yet to be sure that those could be identified in the future. But it's something that we'll be following up on to see what has changed when it comes to
I guess
that.
maybe give Leanne the same question as to what is the staff doing to make everybody comfortable that that situation will not occur in the future.
One of the things I'd like to point out is a lot of the findings that they found this year were all in relation to capital assets and the project accounting. As it relates to what we're doing, one of the issues that we ran into as challenges at the beginning of this year's audit was the fact that we did not have capital assets done in a timely manner. And not having capital assets done in a timely manner meant we had less time, and our CPA firm that we were working with to prepare financial statements had less time to dive in and review those. So my first comment is one of the first changes we've made is we are booking assets on a quarterly basis right now. So throughout the year, assets are getting entered into our system. We're taking the time to review them. Secondly, project accounting is an area we have been continuing to work with the departments on. This past year was a huge challenge in that we had the public works facility using construction manager at risk. While a huge benefit in the way that we did it, it also resulted in hundreds, maybe even thousands of transactions just for that one project. Similar to the Central Plaza, done the same way. So some of that is working with the departments and being more thoughtful in planning and how we set those up in our software. And that's something we've continued to work on. And lastly, I would just say increasing the knowledge of our new staff. And I say new staff, Laura and Kayla have been with us 1-2 years. So increasing their knowledge, talking a lot about what did we find this year, and also working with Eide Bailey. We've already had a kickoff conversation with Eide Bailey. We've talked about our weakness, what we're hoping to accomplish going forward, and have even asked them for advice and guidance on what could we be doing differently, creating the checklist of everything that we are to check, honing in on our audit work papers. I mean, there's just so many areas and room for improvement there. It will be a continuing effort.
Yeah, I do believe making the changes both to Eide Bailey and to Bergen as the CPA firm going forward will certainly be beneficial for the city.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Well, kind of jumping off from where Steve and Kelvin were focused in on, I think the good thing here with this kind of activity and reporting is that it feeds a continuous improvement loop. And clearly, in the financial world, I sense, in a rather general sense, that we were operating in a transitional time that just had additional difficulties associated with it. So therefore, knowing the foundational elements of the finding that we've been discussing, I think that will just almost in a very certain way inform our adjustments process-wise in order to make sure we're not in this condition again. So while the finding in and of itself, if you read it maybe is a little scary, but it actually is very meaningful to department operations. So that's just an opinion that I have.
Did you say that this finding is not uncommon? I mean,
Correct, especially in a transition year, and just in general, again, with the complexity of audit standards, the amount of transactions that go through a government, a city, school district, they're hard to get perfect. And so there are many other instances out of the many audits that we do where this type of a finding comes up.
okay. Any other questions? Well, appreciate your time. Appreciate the explanation, Leanne. We'll move forward. I think, unless Gage, did I give you a chance to ask questions, or you're good? Okay. Thank you
Thanks for having me.
Next item, we have a presentation on the traffic signal master plan for 2026.
Yep. So I'm just going to kick us off. I do want to preference this in saying that this might be the first time that city council is seeing this plan. But as we have been adopting this plan, we have taken action as we've been developing this plan. So a couple of quick examples, 13 and 151, we actually took that signal that was there, the cabinet. We switched that from a TS1 to a TS2 and added a battery backup, being one of the busiest intersections in the county. We also, when we were doing the structural analysis, found that one of the poles had a large fracture in it. So that's why we went ahead and took it down then at that time. So Tim's going to go through the plan, but I don't want you to feel like we haven't been doing anything with this plan. We've done a lot of projects as we've been developing this plan, and even we had to have a draft for this when we applied for the ICAP grant. And that ICAP grant is going to help us get fiber to the signals that don't have fiber. It's going to help us get Centrax and some other components too, so we actually can have the traffic signals talk to each other. So Tim's going to go through it high level with Schneider and Associates, and then the entire packet is in the council packet for those that want to read the entire document. But we'll go through it high level.
Thank you. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Mike. Tim Marock with Snyder and Associates. We are the on-call traffic engineer for the city. We were hired in 2025, so we've been doing a couple of years worth of projects. I just wanted to highlight a couple more that Mike hadn't mentioned. So we have done some traffic studies at different intersections that staff has brought up. The DOT recently changed some speed limits on 13 and 151. We did some retiming of some of those signals, help with that. Mike mentioned the structural inspections. We did that. The ICAP we're working on currently, so we'll get that implemented and get those improvements through. You may have seen just recently Highway 13 and Lynn Air doing a battery backup and some cameras there. And then finally, you'll see for consideration actually on this agenda this week is an application for some safety funds that we're going to go to the DOT and ask for, again, another $500,000 to do some improvements at a bunch of different intersections. So we've been very active. So there's things in here that I might repeat a few things, but the plan is an active plan. We've actually already made some updates to it because part of the plan was to go and do an ICAP application, and you all were successful, so we updated based on that information. And then, of course, the master plan itself, we've been working through as well. So when we started looking at the city and all the signals and all the equipment that we have, we look at plan objectives. So what's the first and foremost thing that we want? We definitely want it to be safe. We want to put in things that we want to replace that make it safe for all users. We want everything to be efficient. We want to make sure vehicles are getting through, pedestrians, bicyclists. We want to identify any needed infrastructure improvements, things that we can either fix or staff can fix or that we could start to budget for, and that, developing a maintenance inspection program. I would say there was already one. We just kind of helped highlight some things that could be looked at while Tom and his staff were out there. And part of the structural inspection, I think they learned a couple things because they were along when we were doing those things. So I think that will help make that program more robust, and he's already doing it now. So overall, though, we want to provide a proactive approach to modernize your infrastructure. So we looked at all the different things, and some of the key findings, existing signal infrastructure, you've got a lot of old signals. It lacks the modern communication, as Mike had mentioned. We're working on that, getting fiber to it so we can connect so the different signals can talk to each other. And that helps your coordination and your timing plans. So on Highway 100, so on 13, even on Marion Boulevard, we can start to have those signals start talking to each other. So there was no integration between signals. We're going to be working on that. Maintenance and the asset management systems were reactive. We're going to become more proactive in identifying things ahead of time. The high-speed locations, so Highway 100, 13, 151, they lack advanced detection. That's a safety feature. So again, something that we're working on addressing with this TSIP application that you all have for consideration today or this week. And then flashing yellow arrow is another one that is a safety improvement. Again, that's going to be part of that application for the traffic safety funds. After we looked at all the things, we made some strategic recommendations. So replacing equipment and systems to enable the management and then eventually maybe adaptive operations. So you can really get efficiency out of the signals and safety. Budget for and begin to replace some of the older signals. So identifying those signals that are older that need replacement. The structural inspection helped with that. But then just, cabinets that are 30 years old, there's just so much more new technology that is going into there. We just don't have the space. So things like that to help improve the pieces at each intersection. And then securing funding, which like we mentioned, we've already gone after some funding. We're going to continue to go after funding. And then, budgeting CIP funds at the city level, just to have an ongoing pot of money to continue to tackle these things. You're not going to get them all in 1 year. You're probably not going to get them all in 5 years, but knowing that these things are going to come, you can plan for them, and we can be proactive with your budgets. So these are the different areas that we recommended improvements in. I'm not going to read all these to you. You can look at them. I've mentioned most of them already, but these things are important together to have a system that is the most efficient, safest, and is proactive. The monitoring that the plan that we're going to put together, where you can monitor the different intersections, will actually tell you when something's wrong. Instead of a citizen calling in, it will tell you, oh, that didn't work so well. So you'll get a flag. That's being proactive. That's the technology that we want. So let's talk about signals by the numbers. You have 34 traffic signals, but really 38 overall. 34 just your standard traffic signals. You have one pedestrian signal at 11th Street. You have a fire signal at 8th, and then you share a signal on Northland with the city of Cedar Rapids, and actually maintain one signal for Lynn County at 30th, East Post, and Lakeside. Now, there is also a span wire PED signal on A, I believe, but I think that one's going to be with the Safe Rest of School project. So I didn't include it, but so these are your signals that you have now. Alburnett Road will add 3 new signals. So you'll have one at Marion Boulevard and 7th, 8th, and up at Boyson. So then you'll be up to 41. So what does a new signal get you? It improves your safety. The signals are more effective. It increases your reliability, decreases maintenance staff going out there getting alarms, having it go into flash where it's red, and you get better traffic operations out of that. Just a couple statistics for you. So out of all the signals, out of the 38 that Marion has, 42% are 20 years or older. Now that doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. It's just once they start to get to 20, 25 years, you got to start thinking about, okay, I'm going to probably have to program replacement, or I'm going to have to program equipment that's going to be coming through because things wear out. So that's the important thing about that. And there's 16 signals out of 38. A typical intersection costs about $250,000 to $300,000. So it's not cheap. Definitely something you want to capital budget for. And then just for fun, your oldest signal is 47 years old at RMR and Marion Boulevard. And it's actually in decent shape for being 47. I mean, it does need to be replaced, but it served well beyond its life. So
yeah.
Another critical system with the signals is video detection. These are cameras that detect the vehicles as they approach. 24 of your signals have outdated detection and need of upgrade. Now, some of those are already in process of upgrade with the ICAP and then potentially this traffic safety. So some of those we are tackling. It's not, 24 sounds like a lot, but we're tackling them. Typically a 4-system setup, or 4-camera setup, one for each leg of the intersection, is about $40,000. So they're not cheap. Again, something to budget for as you go through your CIP. So some of the proactive things that we've already implemented, I mentioned this grant funding a bunch, so I'll skip that. Traffic signal inspections, we completed 61 different pole mast arms that were inspected. Major defects were found at 3 locations, and those 3 locations have been prioritized for replacement already. We're already under design. One of the mast arms, like Mike had mentioned, we took it down like immediately upon discovering it. So we're getting those things completed. And then I mentioned staff has already implemented a higher level of inspection and maintenance. And then the traffic safety improvement program that's going to be due to the DOT is August 15th. So it's for consideration. The 3 things that we're targeting there are, it's all safety, of course, but flashing yellow arrow, which is the yield on left. People tend to understand that better. They yield better. Protected lefts on your high speed, some of the high speed areas, and then advanced detection again on high speed areas. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
take questions. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the page that jumped out to me is a couple of pages here where you have the recommended improvements in cost, which is a total of $3.8 million. And it looks like the focus over the near term, the first 2 years, is a lot of it about the communication, the detection, and all of that. So can all of that be done regardless of whether the signal is brand new or 45 years old? Can they function the same regardless of the age?
Not necessarily. Some of the things that we would need to replace inside the cabinet would be based on the age of because like a computer, things get outdated and you can't.
Yeah, I'm assuming if we do some of these upgrades.
Yeah.
Then it may be replacing maybe items that are in the box, not necessarily the entire mast and signal.
Right. If the material is good, the mast arm and the poles are good.
Good.
It's just like at 151 and 13, we basically picked up the old cabinet off the foundation, picked it up, moved it over, set the new one on top, and they reconnected it. I think it was within 2 hours they did it. And so we basically took the brains of that signal and replaced it. And the poles and everything else stayed. We did add some additional cameras, and I think one more head because we had some blocking of a truck, and we're good to go.
It looks like a lot of the grants are targeted towards the short-term items that you got listed here, which is a total of $1.4 million. Everything beyond that, the majority of that is completely replacing the signals. So the other question I had is, what is the normal? We've got signals a lot older than 20 years. What is the average life expectancy typically for a signal?
It's about 25 to 30 years is
25 to 30 is normal?
Is about it, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, all this, keep in mind, all your signals went through a derecho.
Yeah.
And they didn't have an issue. It's windy here in Iowa, so we get a lot of, as the mast arm moves a lot, you get a lot of stress right in here. And so that's the areas that we looked at when we inspected. And, those are the things that you want to look at, and Tom's staff can look at too. As those signals get older, that's why the maintenance becomes, as you get to 25, 30, instead of being out there maybe every other year, every third, you really want to start watching them because they just get.
Well, I'll speak for myself and probably another 40,000 people who live in Marion. And that is, I'm looking forward to the day when these signals are now coordinated and I don't have to race to get ahead of a light or, Chief, I really don't, Chad, sorry, I really don't do that. I've heard people do that. But anyway, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I second that. I drive every day from here to downtown Cedar Rapids, and it's a noticeable difference when we leave Marion. That's the only thing that I will say. It's better there, but no, it is something I'm looking forward to also. Any other questions? Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, Steve covered off on a couple pieces I was going to ask about, but Mike, as we were talking about just before the meeting, I was focused in on some of the structural observations that were made. And so the question is, do our two grant applications seek any funding for replacement of structures that are still of concern to us, but not in crisis category like the one you mentioned earlier? Or does it just only address basically instrumentation and control and synchronization of the lights?
So the funding that we can typically go after is safety funding. And so it's due to crashes. And so the fact that the poles nearing structural integrity issues, that's not necessarily a way that you can apply for grants.
Okay. So
That's
structural integrity issues, we build that into our year in and year out budget.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Thanks.
if we're doing, for example, Blairsbury and Lindale, that whole signal configuration would likely be changed and we could make it safer. And so then it becomes where maybe we could apply for some TSIP funding for that to reconfigure the signal and then put a new signal in while we're doing it at the same time. So East Post and 100, that was a TSIP application there because we added turn lanes, so we had to extend the mast arms. So if we could reconfigure it in a way that makes it safer, then it opens the door. But if it's just, I'm going to take this pole down and put the exact same pole, that you can't get safety funding for that. Really.
Okay. Just one last question. Is TSIP a federal or state program?
State.
Okay, so a majority of the funding sourcing that we would be applying for then is going to end up being through the state DOT.
For the TSIP, we've done TEAT before, which is the traffic engineering advisory funding that we've done also for the 13 corridor. And then the ICAP funding that we got, that's technically federal funds, but the state allocates it.
Okay, all right.
So we are getting both. So we're always gonna see what grants are applicable. With most federal funding, we want to have at least $1 million because of the extra paperwork that we have to go through. So typically we don't get into that realm versus the TSIP funding. It has a max grant currently of $500,000. Maybe someday they'll raise that. But there's not a lot of extra paperwork that we have to go through for that.
Yep.
So
Any-
not all money is free.
Yeah.
For purposes of the public, TSIP is traffic safety improvement.
Traffic Safety Improvement Program, and ICAP is Iowa Clean Air Attainment Program.
Yeah.
So clean air. So if your signal is more efficient, less air pollution is the idea. So we can replace some cabinets and make some improvements. So hopefully when you're driving, you're not stuck at this one, this one, this one. Yeah. So,
Well, this is anyone else? Before we come back to Steve, he's got a second question. Make sure everyone else has had a chance to weigh in. Okay, go ahead.
So first I'll say this is another example of what the city has done to invest and spend money on programs so that our staff has the ability to plan for the future and do that in the appropriate manner. My other question was, of the $3.8 million, I know that's down, a lot of that, some is current, some is down the road. But aside from the grants we talked about, is any of this in our current CIP, or is this something that as we look at future CIPs needs to start being built in?
Yes. So some of it is, some of it will be in future CIPs.
Okay, so a little bit of each as it will go forward. All right, thanks.
Well, this is definitely a step forward in our growing up process and our evolution of bettering how we do things. So thank you. Appreciate it very much.
thanks.
Okay. Our next item, we have Sue Lin with the Zoning Board of Adjustment report. Oh, we have Mr. Potter.
Potter.
Come on in. Come on down.
What did I do?
Just like last times when the Planning and Zoning Commission chairperson presented, we're going to have the Zoning Board of Adjustments chairperson present today as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'm Charlie Potter, Chairman this year of the Zoning Planning or Zoning Board of Adjustment. We're a five-member board, obviously appointed by the mayor. Luckily, we are full right now. That's been a bit of a on and off. We've been filling that one a lot. We've had a handful of members move out of the area. We meet the third Tuesday of every month as needed. And then on this one, you can see kind of our activity over the last calendar year and then year to date. Obviously, conditional uses and variances are our biggest requests that we get. Typically, they're going to be honeybees, keeping of honeybees, and anything over 900 square feet on a garage is those two. And fence height variances are about the three biggest requests that we get time and time again. And that's about all I have, unless you guys have questions for me.
Any questions? Go ahead. Any questions?
Yes, just a clarifying question. Is
Yeah.
it year to date, is it calendar year or fiscal year?
I believe that is calendar year.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know. 'cause
We haven't met
numbers-
a lot this year, to be
Okay.
honest with you. We've had a handful of items that have been on the agenda and we just keep kind of getting them, they're moved down the line a little bit, but, so yeah, that is calendar year, I believe. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions?
You have anything? Well, thank you, and please thank the rest of the board on our
Okay.
behalf. The work you do is impactful, and it's important as part of our process. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kara, it's a quasi judicial process, correct? Yeah. I think that's the right term. But we should certainly appreciate your volunteering and your time to fill that role, so thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Next item, we're back to Leanne with a discussion on the 27-28 budget.
Hard to believe we're here already. The
Yes.
fiscal year 2028 budget process has begun. We've already held an initial kickoff with the executive leadership team in July. The proposed calendar outlines the anticipated schedule for department budget preparation, staff review, council work session discussions, and final budget adoption. The screen shows the council touches on throughout the process. The proposed fiscal year 28 budget development calendar reflects a somewhat slower start to the council budget discussions compared to the prior year. Several factors contributed to this timing, including recent staffing transitions and workload considerations within the finance department, such as my return from maternity leave, the current purchasing coordinator vacancy, and delays related to the annual audit process, which you received the report tonight. In addition, staff is continuing to review and analyze the impacts of Senate File 2472, the recently approved property tax reform legislation. Because this legislation will affect future revenue projections and budget planning assumptions, allowing additional time for analysis and guidance will support more informed and productive budget discussions with council. The proposed calendar provides a thoughtful path forward while allowing adequate time to prepare meaningful information, evaluate legislative impacts, and engage council in the key policy and financial decisions that will shape the fiscal year 28 budget. During last year's budget cycle, several elected officials expressed interest in holding a town hall meeting to provide the public with an additional opportunity to learn and discuss the city budget. There are already, as required by state law, 2 public hearings, in which 3, if you include, are optional by our code. We do one for this capital improvement program. But there's 3 public hearings that council can weigh in. Staff is seeking direction from city council on whether there's interest in including a budget town hall as part of the fiscal year 2028 budget development process. Any feedback city council might want to provide on what that might look like. And then if council would like to proceed with the town hall, staff would incorporate it into the budget calendar and bring forward a recommendation on timing, format, and discussion topics for council consideration. And we would bring that back in September for council. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor and council for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, I mean, I would say I'm one of the people who because there were enough questions arising about the budget and budget process and sort of misunderstandings, I think, by people in the community about how it all works, that I'm one of the people that suggested we do some sort of a budget 101 kind of public session, but certainly willing to hear what everybody else has to say about it. Go ahead, Gage.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor on that. I see that format being kind of literally a budget kind of 101 session. I think it's great that we have to, by law, require these public hearings, but I think residents don't necessarily get something out of that because they don't understand the terminology all the time at times, and there's a lot of moving pieces in different buckets, and it can be really complex. So I like the idea of having some sort of kind of presentation, but I also like the idea, the other part, the public hearing doesn't necessarily always offer is that interaction with the elected officials at that time. There's not really like a back and forth to be able to explain things. Same with staff and residents. So I would like to see some sort of like interactive but informative session that, because like the mayor pointed out, a lot of questions we get are really based out of just people not knowing the processes. And then once you explain them, they're like, oh, okay. So I'd like to give people that opportunity to come, and that transparency is really important too. And I think it'll go a long way with a lot of our residents.
Anyone else? Great, go ahead.
I think having a town hall would be a good idea. As I look at the overall calendar here, it seems like doing that somewhere toward the front end of our process before we get into the regulatorily required meetings would be useful. I also think that a town hall would mitigate a bunch of independent transactions with residents trying to answer their questions about how this all works. And so if we can do this, hopefully that heads a lot of that stuff off at the pass. So I'm certainly in favor of trying to get one on the schedule and announce it, and hopefully that'll help us in that regard.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
My question is not about the town hall. The memo made mention of the Senate file. Do you know when in this timeline council is going to see a Marion specific analysis, especially about the homestead exemptions?
The latest date would be that October timeframe where we present the 5-year financial plan. I will say at this point in time, I have a meeting on Wednesday with the Iowa Taxpayers Association, Nate Ristow. Did I say that last name right? I also plan to follow up with Michael Maloney at DA Davidson, and then I want to also have some time with Ted Nellison at the Iowa Department of Management. It is a very, very complex bill. The homestead exemption is one thing, but then you've got the limitation and other aspects layered on top of each other. So I'm going to need some time on that. If I have it by the environmental scan in August, September timeframe, I'll present it as early as I can. I just want to make sure it's in a digestible format. And I shared with Ryan, because Ryan asked if I could have something today, and I was like, well, I've got some analysis done, but I don't quite know yet how to articulate it because it's complicated.
Thank you.
It truly is a complicated process. And when Leanne was on maternity leave, Brian and I had conversations with Ted Nelson at the state. We've had conversations with Nate Ristow, who is kind enough to help us put together a model that the Taxpayers Association did on a much larger scale as the legislature was considering property tax reform. So we're trying to dive in as deep as possible and get as accurate of a projection as possible. But as Leanne noted, is a very complex formula, and it's predicated on a lot of different things that we're going to be relying on the state and the county for in order to kind of complete that. So what we're going to have is a best guess, but it's going to be based on something. If I may, Mayor, just really quick, just from the standpoint of transparency with the budget process, certainly we've evolved our budget process over the years, and we have more touch points with the community than what's recommended by the League of Cities. That's something that the state has taken note of and has kind of celebrated Marion for what we do and how we do it with our budget process. One thing that we are planning to do this year I sit on the Venture Academics Board that's done through Linmar. When we had a brainstorming session several months ago talking about what can the children in the Venture Academics program work on. One of the things that we threw out and they want to pursue it is how do we make the budget something that's much more digestible. That's something that us and the school district have stated as a goal and trying to really simplify it as best as possible. Because as we heard from our auditors and as council knows, there's a lot of different moving parts to it. It's not like balancing a checkbook. We've got a lot of different requirements that we have to follow. So if there's anything that our Linmar students can do to help us better advertise it in a very simple way, we're looking forward to that process. And I have a planning meeting with them August 6th to officially kick that off. So we're trying to engage our partners too to do what we can to make sure that this is as easily understood by our residents.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my comment about the town hall meeting, if we're going to proceed with that, I'm not sure the timing and when we do that is so much critical as it is when does the staff have time to design it, to put it in, because that is not going to do it in the right manner is going to take quite a few hours to put that together for the first time. So I don't even think it has to apply to our upcoming budget. It can apply to any budget. If you're going to do a city budgeting 101 and talk to them about how it's put together, how we get to the levy rate, what CIP means, what kind of stuff is in there. I mean, you can do that, pick a year, you could do last year's budget, which is already out there, and do that conceptually pretty easy. So I think the timing is more, when can you fit it in? Because that's all new work that you're talking about putting on your department's plate. So.
Anyone else?
Thank you. We'll bring something back in September for you all.
Thanks, Leanne. Next item is the upcoming agenda review. Last time we had the Sue Lynn show. Today it's pretty much the Mike Barkalow show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're on, Mr. Barkalow.
I figured.
So we're gonna go through the items that are marked by staff one by one, and then we'll come back to the rest of the agenda if anyone has any other questions. So.
I figured you guys missed me.
Yes, we missed you. Yes.
For item D10, all this is it's a new modified portion agreement with the agency, the landfill, to convey the leachate. So with the new 2080 that we have with the Cedar Rapids treatment plant, they get directly billed for the treatment. So because they are using our system to get the sewage all the way through our system, we're just paying them to use our pipes basically. So there's just a conveyance charge. So I didn't know if there's questions on that.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, so just to be clear, the agency would pay a conveyance charge, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Anyone have any questions or concerns? Okay. Next one, Mike.
All right, so D11, like Tim was talking about, the first one is a TSIP application, so Traffic Safety Improvement Program. This is for various short-term needs that were identified in the study, including advanced detection, flashing yellow arrow signal heads, protected left signal heads. So we're asking for $500,000 on that. So I don't know if you had any questions on that specific program, but we are recommending that we apply for those funds.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to
No.
apply for funds? Okay.
There's no match requirement, but the estimate is 550,000. So there would be 50,000 that the city would pay as part of our program. But no, with Traffic Safety Improvement Program, there's very little hoops that we have to jump through for those funding. So
If you get those funds, is there a limited time when you have to use them, or?
yes.
So it's got to be part of the budget and then.
Yep.
Yeah. Any questions? Go ahead.
So once we make application, maybe this applies to the next item. What kind of turnaround time do you expect to hear whether or not we were successful in those funding requests?
I'm just going off memory here, but I believe it's December they let us know. And it's just scoring criteria, and obviously these are all safety related, so they should score high. But it all depends on how many projects were submitted, how they all score, et cetera. But these are just state monies.
Okay, oh, go ahead, Will.
With 550,000, how many of them would be replaced with these that were in the report?
I don't have that exact number. I just know we're taking on a lot of them the short term that are in the report.
Okay.
And that's kind of maximizing because the max award amount is $500,000. So it's something where we keep applying year after year and keep getting it.
Okay, next item.
So the next item is also a TSIP application, slightly different. This one is more for public works operations. The first one is a hitch mounted message board. So if you see the big message boards that say, construction ahead or whatever, we can say wet paint. We can have different things that are on the message board. We can also use it during community events. And then it's also visors that go on the actual traffic signal heads. So we had a winter where it was really tacky snow and it attached to the lights. And now that they're LED versus high pressure sodium, it didn't melt. So you couldn't tell what light was actually activated. So I can tell you, Tom and I were out there in the cold cleaning off signals. He was up in the air. I was just down on the ground. But that way we can not have to have that issue in the future. So we highly recommend that application as well. That's much smaller, but we're still recommending to do that application because that's obviously safety funding as well.
Yeah, I remember that when the lights were all covered and. Okay, any questions on that? Adam?
All right, so D13. So I know at the last work session, you guys talked about Smithland Drive, gave us direction. However, previously you had tabled the motion. So this is just cleaning that up. So rather than remove it from the table, changing the motion, and then taking action on it, we're just having this motion that would then, so we don't have a motion that's still tabled and cleaning it up. So this is just to clean that up, but it is going with option E, no connection, putting the cul-de-sac in and no sidewalk.
Okay, questions, comments? Yes, sir.
So just to clarify scope, that includes enhancements to underground infrastructure, sewer, water, and then obviously resurfacing the entire road.
Yeah, it'd be all new concrete road.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And the cul-de-sac that would be constructed would then meet our current design requirements.
Correct, other than the length, which.
Okay.
Okay. All right, next item.
All right, so previously we had area 4, and there was one street that we took out, Henderson Drive, due to a resident concern about which side of the street we were picking. For this particular street, there's only 10-foot difference between the north versus the south, which is half of a parallel parking spot. So we're switching sides from our previous recommendation based on the resident feedback.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay.
All right, for this regular agenda item then, we do have Nick here from Shive Hattery, but this is regarding the development of the old library site. With this site, per our SUDAS standards that we have, because of the size of the infrastructure, per SUDAS, they are required to have stormwater requirements. On this map, you can see the purple is actually the storm sewer. And so you can see there is storm sewer on 6th Avenue. However, it's in the street between the parking and the street. So they'd have to tear up the street to either get into that section, or it's going north-south in the alley a block to the east. So there isn't storm sewer on 5th Avenue. There's not on 11th. There's only a drain tile on 10th. So they don't have a storm sewer that's close. And also with the parking in the building, they would have to do underground storage. But I do have Nick here if you would like to have questions from the applicant to talk about this. So staff's recommendation, because we're not able to waive our own requirements. It would have to be a city council discussion. This did go to council subcommittee. It sounded like that was okay to waive those requirements, but as staff, we want to follow our recommendation. So we would, our recommendation in the packet is to deny this. As you know, there used to be a library on this site. You're at the top of the hill. And so similarly, when that redevelops, it's going to act similar to when the library was there. So it's not a huge addition to runoff compared to when it was just an old library. But if you'd like to hear more from the applicant, we do have them here.
Okay, well, questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I spent the weekend reading the packet, and the agenda calls for deferral, but the developer's letter says a waiver. What are we considering today?
So it would be a I mean, whether you want to call it a deferral, and I'll lean on legal here, whether it's a deferral or a waiver, once they build the building in the parking lot, we're not going to make them go back and retrofit. So if you want the storm sewer requirements to go in, then you would deny the motion, whether it's a waiver or a deferral. If you want to just defer it, and then we would never make them put it in. I don't know that it's fair to the developer to let it at a later time tell them to tear up their parking lot and put underground detention in.
All right, I have another question.
Go ahead.
So if council approves this and the downstream has an impact, as someone who lives on the downstream area in Marion, which you know about, who will be responsible if the downstream people starts having flood issues?
That gets to be a little bit trickier. If we know that it is related directly to this, then if there is a deferral, we would have the option to go back and require some updates to be made. But otherwise, that would be something where I would probably need to take a look for sure to see. But if we defer and there is flooding downstream, they would probably make a claim against us. However, I don't know that we would actually have liability there.
All right, my next question is, the developer projects a 6.2 increase in peak runoff. Do we have our own numbers?
So anytime a development happens, our staff does review it. So Darren has reviewed it. So any development that comes in, we always have that outside person that does the design, and then we review that internally. So, I mean, even if you look at this picture, the grass area inside of the parking, that was almost all impervious area before. There was some grass out there, but
with the new building, there'll be no grass, correct?
I don't have all of those details on that.
Well, we have.
Yeah, Nick
forward,
is here if you'd like to let him.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Good evening to evening. Yeah, so the increase in runoff will be 6.2% when you compare the pre-developed existing library condition to the proposed condition. There will still be some areas of open space, but it will be marginally reduced. And then that that kind of equates to the actual change in runoff, because the current drainage shed kind of splits in two different ways, where half of it kind of goes to the northwest and half of it goes to the southeast. So the total increase is kind of less than half of a cubic foot per second in either way, which is a pretty marginal amount. So, and then like Mike was kind of describing, there's definitely some kind of unique hardships with this particular parcel, where in order to meet the zoning requirements and the desired kind of site layout, where you have the predominant building being very tight to the setback, basically right on the property line as desired by both the developer and the city. and on that north side, so it's kind of integral with the plaza. You've kind of got nowhere but like building right away and then the actual available adjacent storm sewer, which really limits the ability to have practical stormwater management improvements there without putting it in the right of way, which is not generally desired by any party. So that kind of leaves the only available site area in that parking area. But as you can see, there really is no valid, suitable storm sewer directly adjacent to the site. We have not done detailed design yet because we're just not to that stage, but there are some complications with extending the line there where there are both the library's sanitary sewer outfall and the public sanitary in 11th Street are both rather shallow. So there's just like complications on that storm sewer extension. So yeah, that's why the project is requesting a waiver because of the relatively minimal amount of increase and just the existing conditions.
So just to confirm, there's never been any stormwater management on this block?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. And with prior construction, I mean, all the uses in the past and all that, there's.
I'm not aware of what was there prior to the library, but I'm not aware of anything.
Courthouse.
Smaller buildings.
Yeah, smaller buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any.
Get required.
Okay, go ahead, Grant, and then Steve.
So I'm looking at the table in in your letter.
Yep.
That goes to scenarios 1 through 100-year conditions. I'm assuming that the pre-developed peak flow values are for the old library site as it is now, correct?
As it was when it was when the building was standing pre-demo, because the demolition is considered part of the project.
Okay, so the pre-developed peak flow values shown years 1 through 100 are with the old library structure in place.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to decide is when the old library structurally was there, did we experience any frequent and abnormal drainage issues?
Downhill.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, and then with our stormwater master plan, it also did not identify any needs in this area as well.
Because of the topography or what? I mean, can you
Because
elaborate a
you're at
little
the
bit
top
more?
of the hill, so
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact, as Nick described, it splits and goes multiple directions.
I mean, I think that's the information that's important to kind of get out. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that, either you or Nick?
Which,
Yeah,
Well, Darren did that, but. Yeah, I mean, right now, if you imagine a diagonal line, so part of it goes to the northwest, part of it goes to the southeast. I don't know with your new plans, what direction it's going. So.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
I assume you have roof drains, that's.
Yeah, I mean, the exact
could
configuration.
you please speak into the microphone?
Sorry.
Thanks.
The
Yeah, the
the
meetings
exact
are recorded.
configuration of the roof outfalls have not been finalized yet, so we have not done detailed utility or stormwater, design to figure out exactly how the roof is going to outfall. Sorry, I don't know why it's doing that. It could be distributed. It's probably going to be distributed according with historical drainage patterns, but it kind of depends on how this discussion shakes out on exactly how the post-developed distribution will occur, but.
So what are the historical drainage patterns?
The historical drainage patterns were kind of like I described, where half generally goes to the northwest, half goes to the southeast. And it sounds like based on the, drainage studies, there haven't been any identified major flooding activities. So that's where, the magnitude of, and this is where it gets very difficult from like a liability perspective, because the actual magnitude of runoff increase is very marginal. So that's kind of the drainage patterns.
So the water would be conveyed through the streets, the existing streets, to?
Yes, so in the post-developed condition, if there is no storm sewer extension,
Yeah.
some portion will be connected to the storm sewer in Sixth Avenue for some portion, likely not more than the existing amount, directly connected to the storm sewer. For typically, it's like the 5 or 10-year event is piped. I'm getting into minutia with that, but and then if there is no storm sewer extension or underground detention, the rest of the runoff would proceed just like it is in the existing condition. It kind of would all just kind of pool through, like you can see the existing drives. It would then kick into the 11th Street right away, where it's kind of connected in there with the drive. So the proposed condition would have that parking lot area kick out in that same manner in relatively the same, area as well. There might be a small, portion of the building, like the north-south leg in kind of the southwest quadrant. It's just, I don't know exactly where that will go, but it'll be close to existing drainage patterns.
Steve?
Yeah, if this project can make a connection to the stormwater sewer right next to it on Fifth Avenue without having to go down a block, would we be even having this conversation?
I don't believe so. Just the hardship of bringing it over. And there's also a variety of franchise utilities and water lines on both sides of the street that, increase the difficulty of bringing that over. But that's like also a difference between this and like some other uptown area redevelopments that did have directly adjacent storm sewer. So that is a key component of it.
That's one of the major impacts on the cost of extending it down, further down east on Fifth Avenue.
Correct.
Do you have an estimate of that additional cost? Say, if it was right in front of you on Fifth Avenue versus having to go down a block, cut out the street and go all the way down, do you have an estimate of what that additional cost would be?
Yeah, so the high level, kind of rough order of magnitude for underground detention and storm sewer for that is probably around $350,000. And probably about 33% of that roughly would be for the extension. For the extension,
okay. My overall concept of this is almost looking at it like from a grandfather clause, in that we've had the library there for 30 years. We did not have any flooding or stormwater conditions that were negative south of that in the past, over the past 30 years. So normally in most situations, I would say you got to do it. But from the standpoint of we haven't had a problem for the last 30 years with the library there, I'd personally look at it as a grandfathered clause. And again, this is a case-by-case basis, and that's how I would probably perceive it from my standpoint.
Sarah?
Mike, can you clarify again, is there any intention, or do we have any intention on that Fifth Avenue in our master plan? Remind me of any stormwater, because we've got that big gap of connecting like the corner down or coming down. So if that is the case that we do, there's no way after the fact, right, for them to hook that up if we were to put it in later on Fifth.
No, so if they were to put underground detention in today and there's no way for it to outlet, it would just sit, think of like a bathtub and there's no outlet for it. It would just sit there. I don't know if that would be ideal. They'd have to pump it out every time it fills up. At some point when we reconstruct Fifth Avenue, there will be storm sewer. Now, it's not part of the top 100 projects that we had in there, but anytime we do a reconstruction project, we bring it up to current standards. So whether that's drain tile or an actual storm sewer concrete pipe, at some point there will be storm sewer there.
Do we know why there isn't?
A lot of the old parts of town don't have storm sewer.
Because we put it in, did we put it in then when we did the library project?
It was already in the alley back here. So it's just a matter of putting the underground storage and then connecting to it. So it was a lot closer for the library.
Sure. And there's nothing over on that next block at all.
The only thing over here when we built this is just a drain tile. So it's just a 6-inch line. So they would not be able to tie into that for the storm sewer.
Exactly.
Sarah, Mike, I think this correct me if I'm wrong, but this map just shows the storm sewer, so it's not even showing some of the other utilities along Fifth.
Yeah, it's only the storm sewer.
Because there is a graphic that I think the subcommittee looked at, and we can circulate it to council beforehand, or before Thursday. But the amount of utilities, other utilities that exist just south of that lot are all right there, which also makes it the challenge to underground and then take it over to connect to that storm sewer that the current library site is draining to.
So I guess answering a question, I'm okay with not requiring it or approving that.
Go ahead.
My question is for Mike, and whoever can answer this question. What precedent would this set for future developers?
So our standard is that it would be required. So anytime that someone wanted to not follow the rules that we have adopted, they would have to come to city council for that consideration. So it does not open the door. It could mean more people come to council to ask that, but council ultimately has that purview.
Your Honor, I would agree with that statement that this would not be a precedent-setting decision. This would be a case-by-case decision. We do this in other aspects of design. We've done this for sidewalk. We've done this for other utilities.
Smithland
The
Drive.
difference-
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a perfect example.
And I think the difference here is only that the wording between deferral and waiver. I'm not overly concerned about liability based on what was said, just to clarify that statement from earlier. Drainage cases are awfully hard to prove unless you can show that there would be a massive increase in flooding. And on top of that, we also have some immunity that doesn't necessarily help people who are impacted by flooding. But in this case, because historically we have these areas that there are no storm sewers, I think the risk of damage is pretty minor unless we have a record rainfall situation, which we have not seen any complaints from that in the time that I've been working with the city of Marion, including when we did have the library on that site. I have not been involved in any claims for flooding as a result of having no drainage there.
Yep. And Mayor, if I may. I just wanted to add just another piece of information, adding on to what Mike had started sharing about how the drainage falls from south to east to west to north. And Sixth Avenue is actually really it's that top part, and then it flows this way and that way. With that being said, in the stormwater study, master study itself, in this uptown corridor area, the only detention basin that even is recognized as something that we need to look at in the future and plan for is actually farther down on 15th. And that is the only recommendation for any type of stormwater containment in this uptown area.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to sort out in a simple fashion what the options are. For full compliance, it would be underground storage with an interconnect for outflow to the east along Fifth Avenue to the location that is indicated on this overhead. That's a fully compliant option. The second is to grant the waiver and let the natural flow from the new structure and the property continue to do what was likely experienced with the old library.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to kind of drive that to some simplicity so that I could process it.
Anyone else with any questions or?
And if there's more information that you guys need, this decision isn't made tonight. It's on Thursday, but we wanted to at least talk through it. So if there's additional information to make an informed decision.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, do you have anything else on this topic or? Okay, you have one more item?
All right, last item for me tonight. So as you may be aware that we've installed 2 EV chargers. One is at the library, one is at the 8th Avenue parking lot. As you can see here, this is a picture taken by me at the library where a non-EV vehicle is parked in the EV parking. Right now, the police department cannot enforce this. So what this ordinance does is it adds a $50 fine for those that are non-EV parking in the EV charging. My recommendation is that you waive the rules and do all 3 readings so that we can enforce this on Thursday. With that, we need to order some small $50 fine signs similar to the ADA signs that you see. Those will be here next week on Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll go install them. And then the police department, once it's ratified, can start enforcing it. So if council is amenable to waiving the readings and do them all together on Thursday, that would be my recommendation.
What's the urgency on that?
So that this stops happening. I know there's been residents that have reached out angry that people are taking the EV parking spots and they can't use it.
And Mike, one thing to add, and Terrell or Kim, correct me if I'm wrong. We've had the EV chargers installed. They were, this is something that was donated by Alliance. So we're certainly grateful. It was something identified as part of our parking study. So got it in the CIP, got it implemented. When they powered on, they were not functional. So our support service actually just got this up and operational. So these are now live, which they weren't before, but Tuesday last week, these officially became live. So we will start advertising them as open, available, and something that we've completed as part of that parking study recommendation. So we didn't, when we've had complaints before, they were not operational, they were not in use. But it certainly drew our attention to the fact that we do need to have some regulations on the book now that they are live.
Yeah, I guess I see waiving the 3 readings is sort of an extraordinary situation. So I'm just trying to, like, what could be a negative consequence of, what could somebody want, or after the fact, say about that?
I would not be overly concerned about any sort of fallout other than the people who are violating being mad about it. We had discussed maybe putting it in the, I know we talked about putting it in the messenger, but I think we were talking about putting it in on the Friday updates as well. And then just letting people know and maybe giving like a week of grace or warning.
To rephrase my question, how could someone be negatively impacted by us waiving it? And I think you've answered the question that the people who are negatively impacted are the ones who would be disobeying the
Yes.
the signs.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. You have something? Go ahead.
Where did the $50 come from? That seems awfully low to me. Is that?
So
you missed our meeting.
is it I was gonna say, Kim provided that number to me, so.
Yes, when we were engaging in the installation, getting prepped for the installation, all the pieces that come with it, from the fees that we charge down to this fine potentially, all came from our comparable communities and what that average charge is.
Now I will.
Fine for handicap park.
200.
Yeah.
But a normal parking space,
Yeah.
what, 10 or 20 bucks?
Yeah.
This would be our second highest.
I said.
And Mayor, if I can't thank you, Mayor, just Councilman Brandt, during my check-in with Councilman Jensen, he asked the same exact question. And what I shared with Councilman Jensen, and this is important for the entirety of council, one of the conversations Chief Sprague and I have been having is taking a look at the ordinances, the fines and fees within the police department. I think a normal parking ticket, Chad, is what, $10, I think. It's time to take a fresh look at that. One of the things that Chief Sprague wanted to do was get the management analyst on staff, which council authorized as part of this fiscal year budget. So that person's been hired. That is one of the projects that they'll be looking at is our collective fines and fees for for PD. One of the things, not just the amount, but is it a local ordinance that we write under, which then means that the enforcement fines that our officers would be retained by the city of Marion, instead of there's some violations that when we write, they actually get sent to the state, so that our city doesn't recoup any of those costs. So that's just wanted to share kind of a larger initiative that's taking place with the police department on that topic.
Is it only a fine, or is it fine and a tow? Okay.
Could you speak into the microphone, please? Because the meeting is recorded. Thanks.
More mics.
Yeah, it's and/or. I think we would probably start with just the fines, and if we had repeat offenders, then it might be a different story.
Thank you.
I would say I make it more than 50. Even if it's gonna get reviewed in the future, I'd make it more than 50 to begin with.
Okay, Grant.
So my belief is these charging stations would only be used by EVs if in fact they have to charge. And that also then suggests if I've left home, have a full charge, I'm not going to park my EV there. So somewhat of the flip side of the same coin, what do we do about an EV that's not there actively charging?
So it's actually stated.
Is it?
It's not allowed to park in the EV without charging.
Okay. Oh, it's right there on the second bullet point. I'm calling my eye doctor right now.
Any other questions or comments?
So I guess, is council in favor? Because then Rachel can change the agenda to have the 3 readings, or?
Anyone? We have 1 person, 2, 3, 4. We have a consensus. Okay.
And then anybody else besides Will wanting to change the rate?
Come on.
No, not me.
Not yet.
That's reviewed.
All right.
Okay, this brings us to the rest of the agenda. If anyone has any questions on any other item that was not marked by staff, now's your time to ask your question. Okay. This brings us to the closed session.
Mayor, I move to adjourn to closed session regarding real estate transactions as permitted under section 21.51J of the Code of Iowa.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session regarding real estate transactions. Do we have the legal counsel's statement, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. I've reviewed the proposed subject matter for the closed session and find the same to be appropriate under Iowa Code Section 21.51J.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion before we vote? Roll call, please.
Mr. Miskman?
Yes.
Mr. Uniman?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Mayor Abu Osley?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Ms. Menzer?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We're adjourned to closed session. We'll be upstairs.